Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and in my last video, I kind of did an overview of FabCon 2025, right? What the announcements were, uh, and it's just all AI slop, right? So wanted to get another perspective on this. So of course, going to turn to Marco Russo, right? And he's got three things that he says are the big announcements coming out of the conference: direct lake and import mode, calendars and DAX, and user-defined functions in DAX. And it's funny, right? Because I don't think any of these three topics, made it into the official. This is why Fabric is so great, which I think speaks volumes to like how sad Microsoft's marketing is, and that they can't, they just want to promote AI slop just like the rest of the entire software industry. And then people that are in the know, like Marco Russo, you know, they just avoid all that kind of stupid nonsense because they know it's just marketing garbage, right? So anyway, so now that being said, I'm not sure I'm fully on board with everything Marco has to say here, but it's always good to get his perspective on things. So one of the things is direct link and import mode, and he's been on the forefront of saying, look, direct link, it's not all that, people. And he seems to be changing his tune a little bit because of all these new things that they're adding, right? Materialized views, calculated tables, composite models. And I guess my perspective on it is a little different. One, all of this stuff it will be able to do this. It is coming, right? It's all future functionality that isn't baked yet, right? Right. So there's that to be, but this is all stuff that I would expect in like a V1 of the product, right? And the fact that this much is changing and this much still isn't baked into the product yet just comes it just comes across to me as this direct link is not fully baked, right? It's just not. And why would I attempt to build something production on something that is beta, or worse than beta? So it doesn't. I don't know. I can't. It's hard for me to get excited about direct link when it's this, you know, just not quite there yet. So I don't. Anyway, I'd give it another year or two. I mean, it's been 2 years, people. It's been 2 years, and they're still adding just basic shit into the feature functionality for this thing. So it's like, come on, really? All right. So there's that, right? And then calendars and decks. Now, so basically, what they're saying, and this is, I mean, I have to get more details about how they're going to implement this, but basically, my first thought on this seems like a half-assed workaround to feature functionality that was half-ass engineered to begin with. Right? Time intelligence functions in DAX are some of the worst functions in DAX. They're just god awful. Okay, and I've proven this, and other people have proven this, and everyone that I know of that's semi-intelligent, right, uses Melissa's date, Power Query M date table, right, Melissa DeCorte, and then they use offsets, right? And it's been proven over and over again that that is a far superior solution to using time intelligence functions in terms of performance, ability to debug what's going on, all of it, right? It's not difficult, right? The code in that. And so this just seems like, well, we acknowledge that time intelligence sucks, right? Because we somehow forgot that not everybody uses a standard calendar. Right? It's like it's the oversight of all oversights, right? You're building a business intelligence product for business, and you don't include weeks, and you don't include the fact that people run fiscal calendars, right? It's just the stupidest of all stupidity, right? It's like, how did you miss that? So they're trying to fix it. They're gonna introduce some week, right? And this gives me content at least. I'll be able to go in and prove yet again that offsets are faster and better than time intelligence functions, right? I've already done it in my I spit on your grave videos and that sort of stuff, right? So I don't think it's going to change anything. I think it's going to make things worse, because it sounds like this works with the auto time intelligence date tables, is what it sounds like this is working with. And then we're going to add more bloat to these auto time intelligence date date tables so that they work with ISO and 445 and all this sort of stuff. And I doubt they get it right. I mean, just because you say it's a 445, dude, I've seen people that have 445s and things like that they start on a specific date of the year, and it's not like a normal date. It's just a random date that they picked, like April 12th. right? So I doubt that they're going to get it right and it's going to be universal and be able to be used everywhere. And it just seems like it's just going to add a bunch of bloat and garbage. I mean, everybody that I know of, a lot of people that I know of, like claiming that it's a best practice to turn off, auto time intelligence and not use these date tables, right? So because, and I've seen it's been the cases or videos out there where it's like, oh yeah, this like you turn this auto time intelligence off and it saves you like a gig. Your database, your semantic model size drops by like a gig because there's just all these ridiculous, auto time intelligence date tables that get created under the hood. So I don't know. This seems sketchy to me. I don't know about it. Yeah. So anyway, so user defined functions. Now this one I know everybody's excited about, but I have two things that I think that if they do it, it all depends on the implementation, right? And if they do it the way that it kind of sounds like in this write-up, then I think it'll be far less useful than what people are hoping for. And that is, if you read this closely, user-defined functions exist on the Fabric workspace. Eew. So are you telling me that I can only use a Fabric, so to use user-defined functions, I have to have a Fabric workspace, that it won't work on a normal Power BI workspace, right? And then you start getting into questions of, well, is it a reserved workspace? Or is it a pay-as-you-go workspace that this feature functionality exists in, right? And that means that I can or can't use them in Power BI Desktop, or do I need to link my Power BI Desktop to a Fabric workspace in order to use these? I don't know, man. If they implement it that way, it's like, if you can't just use these things in Power BI Desktop without worrying about anything in the service, I think that severely limits, especially if it has to be Fabric. I think that severely limits what, like, it's going to severely impact on whether people use this crap or not, right? I mean, it sounds pretty interesting, but it really does. And then, so here's the other thing. Every example I've seen of UDFs, they're all scalar. They're all returning scalars, right? If you can't return a table from a user-defined function in UDF, that severely limits its usefulness, right? I mean, I do have some measures that I've written over the years that like fuzzy and a couple of like fuzzy matching and a couple of things where it has some parameters that'd be nice to be able to pass those into a function and have it operate on that stuff. But usually that's pretty niche kind of things, where you need to be able to, you'd want to have some parameters that impact the calculation like that. I mean, there's definitely uses for it, but by far the better use for it. I mean, if you think about actual functions in DAX, maybe it's not half, but that's a good percentage of DAX functions that return tables. Okay, so if they don't include the ability to return a table, then I mean it's just kind of weak in my opinion. So those are my two concerns with user-defined functions. I'll get excited about them if I don't have to have a Fabric workspace, and if I don't have to have a workspace at all to use them, right? One, and two, if they can return tables, then I'll get excited. Until that happens, then they seem like garbage to me. So I got somebody at the door, so that's all I had for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.